A tired editor on a late-night bus discovers a luxury watch inscribed, "For the time you almost lost." Returning it leads Elena into the orbit of a grieving fashion CEO, a love she never expected, and a secret someone will do anything to bury. Before we get into the story, comment below where in the world you're watching from today. Elena Brooks sat alone on the night bus, rubbing her tired eyes. Another long day of copy editing other people's words had left her drained. At 27, this wasn't where she'd imagined her life would be. Riding the 11:45 p.m. bus home, her laptop bag heavy on her lap, surrounded by strangers who looked just as tired as she felt. The bus lurched to a stop and most passengers filed out, leaving Elena with just a few night shift workers heading home. She took the opportunity to slide over to the window seat, sighing as she rested her head against the cool glass. That's when she felt something hard press against her thigh. Elena shifted, reaching down between the cushions. Her fingers touched something cold and metallic. Curious, she pulled it out and gasped. In her hand was what appeared to be an extremely expensive watch. The face gleamed under the bus's harsh lighting, and when she turned it over, an engraving caught her eye. "For the time you almost lost." "Lost something?" the bus driver called back, noticing her surprised expression in his rearview mirror. Elena hesitated. She could easily slip the watch into her bag. No one would know. Her rent was due next week and she was coming up short as usual, but that thought only lasted a moment. "No," she replied. "Actually, I found something. Someone left their watch." The driver nodded. "Turn it in at the depot tomorrow if no one claims it. We keep a lost and found." Elena wrapped the watch carefully in a tissue and tucked it into her purse. The right thing to do was turn it in, even though she doubted anyone would come looking for it at a bus depot. The next morning, Elena walked into the bus company's office and approached the bored-looking attendant. "I found this on the number 22 bus last night," she said, placing the watch on the counter. "It looks expensive." The woman behind the counter raised her eyebrows. "Wow, most people would have kept this." She took out a form. "Fill this out with your contact info. If someone claims it, they might want to thank you." Elena filled out the form, though she doubted anyone who could afford a watch like that would bother tracking it down. People with money just bought new things when they lost the old ones. That's how the world worked. Later that afternoon, Elena sat at her usual corner table at Café Meridian, her laptop open as she edited a technical manual. The cafe was her office away from home, cheaper than renting a real workspace and with unlimited coffee refills if you knew which baristas to smile at. Her phone rang, displaying an unknown number. Elena rarely answered calls from numbers she didn't recognize, but something made her pick up. "Hello, is this Elena Brooks?" a woman's crisp, professional voice asked. "Yes, this is she. I'm calling from the Metro Transit Authority. Someone has claimed the watch you turned in and would like to thank you personally. They asked for your contact information. Are you comfortable with us providing that?" Elena hesitated. Could you tell me who's asking?" "One moment." There was a pause. "The gentleman says his name is Damien Calloway." Elena nearly dropped her phone. Everyone knew that name. Damien Calloway was the CEO of Calloway Design House, one of the most prestigious fashion and design companies in the country. His face appeared in business magazines and society pages alike. "Ms. Brooks, are you still there?" "Yes, sorry. Instead of giving out my address, could you tell him I work at Café Meridian most afternoons? If he wants to stop by, that would be fine." "One moment." Another pause. "He says he'll come by today if that's convenient." "Today?" Elena's heart raced. "Yes, that's fine. I'll be here until 6. After hanging up, Elena found herself unable to focus on her work. She kept glancing at the door each time it opened, expecting to see a swarm of assistants and security guards preceding the famous CEO. It was just after 3 when the cafe door opened and a tall man walked in alone. Elena recognized him immediately. From magazine covers, though in person he seemed both more imposing and somehow more human. Damien Calloway wore a simple grey sweater and dark jeans, casual by most standards, but undoubtedly expensive. His dark hair was slightly tousled, and his eyes scanned the cafe until they landed on her. Elena froze as he walked directly to her table. "Elena Brooks?" he asked. She nodded, suddenly aware of her worn jeans and simple blouse. "I'm Damien Calloway." He extended his hand. "May I join you?" "Of course," Elena said, quickly moving her papers to make room. Damien sat down across from her. Up close, she noticed the shadows under his eyes, a weariness that magazine photos always airbrushed away. "Thank you for turning in my watch," he said. His voice was softer than she'd expected. "It means more to me than you could know." "It's a beautiful watch," Elena replied. "I figured someone must be missing it." Damien smiled slightly. "Most people wouldn't have bothered." "I'm not most people, I guess." "No," he said, studying her face. "You're not." There was something in his gaze that made Elena uncomfortable, not in a threatening way, but as if he was seeing more of her than she was used to people seeing. "The watch," he said, pulling it from his pocket and turning it over in his hands. "It was the last gift from my brother before he passed away 3 years ago." His voice caught slightly. "He gave it to me when I almost lost the company during our early years." "I'm sorry about your brother," Elena said quietly. Damien nodded, his fingers tracing the engraving. "I've lost too much already." He looked up at her, his expression unexpectedly vulnerable. "I don't want to lose the woman who gave it back." Elena blinked, unsure how to respond to such a direct statement from someone like him. "I know this is forward," he continued, "but would you have dinner with me just once to properly thank you?" Elena's first instinct was to refuse. Men like Damien Calloway didn't date women like her. She edited other people's words for a living, rode the night bus home and worried about making rent. He ran a design empire and probably had homes around the world. "I'm not," she started, then paused, unsure what she was trying to say. "Please," he said, and there was something almost awkward in his request, something genuine that cut through her defenses. "Just dinner, to say thank you." Against her better judgment, Elena found herself nodding. "Okay, just dinner." The smile that spread across his face transformed him from the serious businessman she'd seen in magazines to someone almost boyish. "Tomorrow night? I can pick you up at 7. "I'd rather meet you there," Elena said cautiously. "Of course." He didn't seem offended by her hesitation. "Do you like Italian? There's a small place called Marco's on 8th Street. Elena knew the restaurant by reputation, exclusive and expensive. "That sounds nice." Damien stood to leave, then hesitated. "Thank you, Elena. Not just for the watch, but for saying yes." He handed her a business card with his personal number written on the Adiamo back. "Text me if anything changes." After he left, Elena sat staring at the card, wondering what she'd gotten herself into. The next evening, Elena spent more time than she'd care to admit trying to find something appropriate to wear. She finally settled on her one nice dress, a navy blue wrap dress she'd bought for job interviews. It wasn't designer, but it was classic. Marco's was even more elegant than she'd imagined. When she gave her name, the maitre d' immediately smiled and led her to a private corner table where Damien was already waiting. He stood when he saw her, his eyes warming as he took in her appearance. "You look beautiful," he said simply. "Thank you," Elena replied, feeling self-conscious as he helped her with her chair. "This place is lovely. I hope you don't mind. I picked it because it's quiet, and they respect privacy." The dinner began with awkward small talk, but as they moved, from appetizers to their main course, something shifted. Damien asked about her work, and Elena found herself explaining the satisfaction she found in helping writers clarify their thoughts. "Words matter," she said. "Sometimes people have brilliant ideas but can't quite express them. I help bridge that gap." Damien nodded thoughtfully. "That's not so different from what I do with design, taking someone's vision and making it tangible." As they talked, Elena was surprised to find Damien wasn't what she'd expected. Behind the polished exterior was someone who listened intently, who laughed easily at her dry observations, and who spoke with passion about his work. "My brother Michael was the one with the real vision," Damien said, his expression softening at the mention of his name. "I was always better with the business side. He could look at something and see what it could become." "You must miss him," Elena said quietly. Damien nodded, twisting the watch on his wrist. Every day. The company was our dream. His dream, really. After he died, I threw myself into work. It was easier than facing the emptiness. His honesty caught Elena off guard. It wasn't what she expected from a powerful CEO. "What about you?" he asked. "Any siblings?" "No, just me. My parents split when I was young. My mum raised me, but she passed away a few years ago." "I'm sorry," he said, and she could tell he meant it. "So we're both alone." The way he said it, placing them in the same category, made Elena's heart beat faster. As dinner continued, their conversation deepened. They discovered a shared love for old jazz music, a mutual dislike of pretentious art galleries, and both admitted to falling asleep during the same critically acclaimed foreign film. "Everyone said it was brilliant," Elena laughed. "I thought, maybe I was missing something." "You weren't," Damien assured her. "Michael dragged me to see it. He fell asleep too, but would never admit it." By dessert, Elena had forgotten about the expensive restaurant and the gap between their worlds. For the first time in years, she felt seen, not as a service provider, not as a background character, but as herself. When they finally left the restaurant, Elena was surprised to see it was nearly midnight. They stood on the sidewalk, neither seeming eager to end the evening. "Thank you for tonight," Damien said softly. "I can't remember the last time I had a conversation that didn't involve quarterly projections or marketing strategies." "It was nice," Elena admitted. "Unexpected, but nice. My driver can take you home," he offered. Elena shook her head. "I'm fine taking the bus. It's still running." A look of concern crossed his face. "At this hour?" "I do it all the time," she assured him. He seemed about to argue, but nodded instead. "Can I see you again?" The question hung in the air between them. Elena knew she should say no. Their worlds were too different. Whatever this was, it couldn't last. Men like him didn't end up with women like her, but the way he looked at her, as if he was genuinely afraid she might say no, made her hesitate. "I'd like that," she heard herself say. The smile that lit up his face made her heart skip. "I'll call you tomorrow." As promised, Damien called the next day, and the day after that. Their second date was at a hole-in-the-wall jazz club Elena loved. Their third was a walk through the park with coffee. Each time, Elena expected the novelty of her company to wear off, for Damien to realize she didn't fit in his world. But instead, he began showing up at her cafe with sketchbooks, working quietly, across from her for hours. Sometimes he'd slide a drawing over to her, a dress design, a jacket, a handbag, and ask for her opinion. "Your perspective is refreshing," he told her one afternoon. "You see things differently." 2 weeks after they'd met, Damien asked if he could walk her home. Elena hesitated, knowing her small apartment wasn't impressive, but she agreed. As they approached her building, she said, "It's not much, but it's home." Damien squeezed her hand. "I grew up in a place not much bigger. Before Michael's designs took off, we shared a studio apartment smaller than my office is now." Inside her apartment, Elena was acutely aware of every worn piece of furniture, every mended curtain, but Damien moved through the space with genuine interest, stopping to look at her small collection of books, smiling at the potted plants lining her windowsill. "It feels like you," he said finally. "Unpretentious. Real." When he kissed her that night, standing in her tiny kitchen, Elena felt something shift inside her. For the first time, she allowed herself to believe that maybe this wasn't temporary, that maybe she was someone who could be wanted, not for what she did, but for who she was. But the morning after their first kiss, everything changed. Elena stepped out of her apartment building to find photographers waiting. Flashbulbs exploded in her face as she tried to make her way to the bus stop. "Are you Damien Calloway's new girlfriend? How did you meet? What do you do for a living?" The questions came rapid-fire as Elena pushed past them, heart pounding. On the bus, she checked her phone to find multiple notifications. Someone had posted photos of her and Damien walking together the previous evening. The headline read, "Calloway's mystery woman, who is she?" By the time she reached the cafe, her phone was ringing. It was Damien. "Elena, I'm so sorry," he said, his voice tight with anger. "I had no idea they'd found out about us." "It's okay," she said, though it wasn't. She felt exposed, vulnerable. "It's not okay. This is exactly why I've kept my private life private. I should have been more careful." The words stung. More careful, as if she was something to hide. "I understand," she said quietly. "No, that came out wrong," Damien said quickly. "I just meant I wanted this to be just ours for a while longer, before the world tried to tear it apart." That evening, Eleanor sat alone in her apartment, scrolling through article after article speculating about her relationship with Damien. Some were cruel, questioning what someone like him saw in someone like her. Others invented elaborate backstories. She was a model, an heiress living incognito, a social climber who had schemed her way into his life. None of them saw her for who she really was. Just as she'd feared, in Damien's world, she was invisible, or worse, a curiosity to be dissected. Her doorbell rang. Elena approached cautiously, peering through the peephole to make sure it wasn't more reporters. The hallway appeared empty. She opened the door slowly and found a small package on her doormat. Inside was the watch, the same watch she'd found on the bus 3 weeks ago, and a note in Damien's handwriting. "I can't lose you two. Tell me what time I need to be there, and I'll come running." Eleanor held the watch in her trembling hands, tracing the engraving with her finger. "For the time you almost lost." She hadn't understood its significance before. Now it felt like the words were meant for her too. Outside her window, camera flashes lit up the street as reporters waited. Her phone buzzed with another notification, another story about the mysterious woman who had somehow caught Damien Calloway's attention. Elena looked down at the watch, ticking steadily in her palm, and wondered if what they had found together was strong enough to survive being dragged into the light. Elena sat on her couch, the weight of Damien's watch heavy in her palm. The ticking seemed to match her heartbeat as she considered what to do next. The paparazzi outside her apartment building had made it clear there was no going back to her quiet, invisible life. She took a deep breath and typed a message to Damien. 8 p.m. I'll be here." His response came immediately. "I'll be there no matter what." At precisely 8 o'clock, Eleanor heard a commotion outside. She looked through her window to see Damien pushing through the crowd of photographers, ignoring their shouted questions. Within moments, her doorbell rang. When she opened the door, Damien stood there, slightly out of breath, his eyes finding hers with relief. "You came," she said. "I told you I would." He stepped inside, and she closed the door against the world. 4. A moment they stood in silence, the small space of her apartment suddenly feeling like the only safe place in a stormy sea. "I'm sorry about all of this," Damien said, running a hand through his hair. "I should have predicted the media would find out eventually." Elena held up the watch. "Why did you give this to me?" "Because I want you to know how much you mean to me." His voice was steady, but she could see vulnerability in his eyes. "That watch represents second chances. Michael gave it to me when I almost lost everything. Now I'm giving it to you because I don't want to lose what we're building." "And what is that exactly?" Eleanor asked, needing to hear him say it. Damien took a step closer. "Something real. Something I haven't felt in a very long time." He reached for her hands. "Elena, I know we come from different worlds. I know this attention is overwhelming. But please don't let it scare you away." Elena looked down at their joined hands. "The things they're saying about me don't matter." He interrupted firmly. "Not to me. They're wondering what someone like you sees in someone like me." Damien's expression softened. "Then they don't see you at all." He gently lifted her chin. "You're kind in a world that rarely values kindness. You're honest when it would have been easier not to be. You see me, not my company, not my money, just me." The sincerity in his voice made her heart ache. "I'm afraid," she admitted. "I'm afraid that one day you'll wake up and realize I don't belong in your world. Then we'll create our own," he said simply, as if it were that easy. When he kissed her, Eleanor felt her doubts recede, not disappear, but fade enough to let hope shine through. Whatever challenges lay ahead, they would face them together. The next morning, Elena woke to the sound of her phone ringing. It was her friend Lisa from the cafe. "Elena, have you seen the papers?" Lisa asked without preamble. "No. Why? You and Damien Calloway are on the front page of the style section. They're calling you his mystery muse, Eleanor groaned. Great. Actually, it might be. The article says his design team has noticed a shift in his work lately. More accessible, more authentic. They're saying you've inspired a whole new direction for the brand. After hanging up, Elena checked her phone to find dozens of notifications and messages from people she hadn't heard from in years. Former classmates, distant relatives, even an ex-boyfriend, all suddenly interested in her life. When she arrived at the cafe later that morning, people stared. Some pretended not to notice her, while others openly whispered behind their hands. Her usual corner table was occupied, so she found a spot near the window, feeling uncomfortably exposed. She had barely opened her laptop when the chair across from her was pulled out. She looked up expecting to see Damien, but instead found a sleek, professionally dressed woman with a tight smile. Elena Brooks. I'm Victoria Marshall, Damien's executive assistant. Elena tensed. Nice to meet you. Victoria didn't waste time on pleasantries. I'm sure you're a lovely person, but you need to understand what you're getting into. Damien isn't just a man. He's the face of a global brand. His personal life affects stock prices, investor confidence, employee morale. I'm aware of who he is, Elena replied, trying to keep her voice steady. Are you? Because dating him means scrutiny of every aspect of your life. Your clothes, your job, your past. Nothing will remain private. Victoria leaned forward. He's vulnerable right now. The anniversary of Michael's death is next month, and he always gets emotional during this time. The implication was clear. Eleanor was a distraction, a temporary escape from grief, not something serious. If Damien has concerns, he can talk to me himself, Elena said firmly. Victoria's expression hardened. Damien sees the best in people. It's both his greatest strength and his greatest weakness. She stood, smoothing her impeccable suit. Just think about whether you're really prepared for what being with him entails. After Victoria left, Elena sat frozen, her coffee growing cold. Was Victoria right? Was she naive to think she could handle the pressure of Damien's world? Her phone buzzed with a text from Damien. Meeting running late. Dinner tonight? I want to show you something. Despite her unsettled feelings, Eleanor agreed. That evening, Damien's driver picked her up, taking her not to a restaurant as she expected, but to the Calloway Design House headquarters. The massive glass building was mostly empty at this hour. Damien met her in the lobby, his face lighting up when he saw her. Sorry about the mysterious invitation, he said, kissing her cheek. But I wanted to show you something before anyone else sees it. He led her to the elevator, using his keycard to access the top floor. When the doors opened, they stepped into a massive studio space with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. Sketches covered the walls, and fabric samples were draped over every surface. This is my personal workspace, Damien explained. No one comes up here except me. Elena took it all in, amazed by the creative energy of the space. It's incredible. Damien seemed nervous as he guided her to a covered dress form in the corner. For the first time in years, I've been designing pieces myself, not just overseeing the team. He took a deep breath. And it's because of you. He removed the cover to reveal a stunning dress. Unlike the avant-garde pieces Calloway was known for, this was elegantly simple, beautiful because of its clean lines and perfect proportions. It was in a deep blue that reminded Elena of the first dress she'd worn to dinner with him. Damien, she breathed, it's beautiful. It's the first piece in a new collection. I'm calling it Found Time. He touched the fabric gently. Each piece is designed to make the wearer feel seen, really seen. His eyes met hers. The way you make me feel. Elena was speechless. The dress represented something profound. Damien's recognition of her influence on him, his willingness to be vulnerable through his art. My team thinks I've lost my mind, he admitted with a slight smile. Accessible luxury isn't exactly our brand, but I want to create pieces that tell stories, real stories, not just fashion fantasies. What about Victoria? Elena asked, unable to hold back. Does she think you've lost your mind too? Damien's expression shifted. You met Victoria. Elena told him about the morning's conversation. Damien's jaw tightened as she spoke. "She had no right to approach you like that," he said, anger evident in his voice. "Victoria's been with the company since Michael's time. She means well, but she's overprotective. She thinks I'm a distraction, that I am taking advantage of your grief." Damien took Elena's hands. "Victoria doesn't know what I know, that since I met you I've felt more connected to Michael's memory, not less. You remind me why we started this company, because we believed beautiful design should make people feel something real." His words melted her doubts. Whatever Victoria thought, whatever the press wrote, Damien saw her for who she was. And somehow, impossibly, she was helping him become more of who he wanted to be too. Later that night, as they sat on the studio floor eating takeout and talking about the collection, Damien's phone rang. He checked the screen and frowned. "It's my brother's former business partner, Thomas Webb. I should take this." He stepped away to answer, his voice growing increasingly tense as the conversation continued. When he returned, his expression was troubled. "Thomas wants to meet tomorrow. Apparently there's something about Michael's final designs that he needs to discuss." "Is everything okay?" Elena asked. "I'm not sure," Damien admitted. "Thomas and Michael had a falling out before the accident. They'd been working on a project together, but something went wrong. Michael never told me the details." Elena squeezed his hand. "Do you want me to come with you?" The gratitude in his eyes was answer enough. The next day, they met Thomas Webb at a quiet restaurant across town. Thomas was older than Damien, with silver hair and sharp eyes that assessed Elena with undisguised curiosity. "So you're the woman who's been all over the papers," he said after introductions. Damien's muse. Elena felt herself blush but held his gaze. "I'm Elena." Thomas nodded, turning his attention to Damien. "I've been following the news about your new collection. Quite a departure from your usual work." "That's not why we're here, Thomas," Damien said, his voice controlled. "You said this was about Michael." Thomas's expression sobered. "Yes. With the anniversary coming up, I've been going through some old files. I found something you should see." He slid a folder across the table. "These are copies of the final designs Michael and I were working on before our disagreement." Damien opened the folder, his face paling as he examined the sketches inside. Eleanor leaned closer to see what had shocked him. The designs were remarkably similar to the new collection Damien had been creating. Not identical, but sharing the same philosophy of accessible elegance. Michael wanted to take the brand in a new direction, Thomas explained. "More inclusive, less exclusive. I argued it would damage our luxury positioning. That's what we fought about." Damien's hands shook slightly. "Why didn't he tell me?" "You were focused on the business side. He didn't want to distract you until he had everything figured out." Thomas glanced at Eleanor. "Seems like you're channeling his vision now, whether you knew it or not." On the ride back to Damien's office, he was silent, lost in thought. Eleanor gave him space, understanding he needed to process what Thomas had revealed. Finally, he spoke. "All this time, I thought I was protecting Michael's legacy by maintaining the brand exactly as it was when he died. But I was wrong." He looked at Elena. "Somehow, meeting you helped me find what he was trying to create. Maybe that's why you lost the watch on my bus," Elena said softly. "Maybe some part of you was searching for a way back to Michael's true vision." Damien smiled sadly. "Maybe." When they arrived at the office, they found Victoria waiting, her expression grim. "We have a problem," she announced without preamble. "Someone leaked photos of the new collection online. The press is calling, investors are nervous, and the design team is in an uproar." "How did this happen?" Damien demanded. "That's the worst part," Victoria said, her eyes flicking to Elena. "The photos were taken from your private studio. Only a handful of people have access to that floor." Elena felt the blood drain from her face as both Damien and Victoria turned to look at her. "You don't think I—" "Of course not," Damien said quickly, but she caught the momentary hesitation in his eyes. "The timing is suspicious," Victoria pressed. "Ms. Brooks visits your studio for the first time, and suddenly confidential designs are leaked." "That's enough, Victoria," Damien said sharply. But the damage was done. A seed of doubt had been planted, and Elena could see it taking root in Damien's mind, no matter how much he tried to deny it. I should go, Elena said quietly. No, stay, we need to figure this out, Damien insisted, but his tone had changed, more CEO than the man she'd come to know. I think it's better if I give you space to handle this, Elena said, gathering her purse. Call me when you're ready to talk. As she left the building, photographers swarmed, shouting questions about the leaked designs. Had she been the source? Was she selling Callaway secrets? Elena pushed through them, tears threatening to spill. In the safety of a taxi, she finally allowed herself to cry. She'd been right to be cautious. Her world and Damien's were too different. The watch on her wrist, his precious gift, now felt like a weight pulling her under. When she reached her apartment, Elena found more reporters waiting. She ducked into a neighbor's entrance and took the back stairs, grateful to finally close her door against the chaos. Her phone buzzed with texts from Damien. I know it wasn't you. Please call me. I trust you, Elena. But did he really? That moment of doubt she'd seen in his eyes told her everything she needed to know. The next morning, Elena called in sick to her copy editing job and stayed in her apartment, ignoring the persistent knocking of reporters. Around noon, her phone rang. It was Lisa from the cafe. Elena, you need to see this, Lisa said. There's a woman on the morning talk shows claiming she's been Damien's girlfriend all along. She says you're just a publicity stunt for the new collection. Elena's heart sank. What? Her name is Sophia Reynolds. Tall, blonde, looks like she stepped out of a magazine. Says she and Damien have been together for months. After hanging up, Elena searched online and found the interview. Sophia Reynolds was indeed beautiful, polished, and spoke with the casual confidence of someone used to moving in elite circles. She described private moments with Damien that seemed convincingly intimate. Damien likes to keep his real relationships private, Sophia was saying. This whole mystery muse story is just clever marketing for the new collection. Elena Brooks is a sweet girl, but she's being used as a face for the campaign. Elena felt sick. Was it possible? Had she been naive enough to believe she was special? When she was just part of a publicity plan? She tried calling Damien, but the call went straight to voicemail. She texted him about the interview, asking for an explanation, but received no response. Hours passed with no word from him. Elena paced her small apartment, alternating between anger and heartbreak. The press coverage had expanded. Now they were calling her Callaway's clever marketing ploy and speculating that she'd been hired to play a role. As night fell, Elena made a decision. She took off the watch, placed it carefully in its box, and wrote a note. I can't be part of a world where I don't know what's real anymore. Thank you for the time we shared. She called a car service, avoiding the main entrance where photographers still lingered. She would drop the watch at Damien's office and then stay with her cousin in the suburbs until the media storm died down. The Callaway building was quiet when she arrived, most employees gone for the day. She planned to leave the package with security, but as she approached the desk, she heard raised voices from a nearby conference room. Through the glass walls, she saw Damien facing off with Sophia Reynolds and a man she didn't recognize. Unable to help herself, Elena moved closer, staying out of sight but within earshot. This ends now, Damien was saying, his voice cold with anger. I don't know how much Thomas paid you to spread these lies, but it stops tonight. Don't be dramatic, Damien, Sophia replied smoothly. It's just business. Thomas said you needed a wake-up call before you destroyed everything your brother built. By pretending to be my girlfriend? By trying to discredit Elena? Thomas stepped forward. The girl is a distraction, Damien. She's making you lose focus, changing the brand's direction. No, Damien interrupted. She helped me find Michael's true vision. The vision you tried to suppress because it didn't align with your ideas about luxury. Elena stood frozen, clutching the watch box. Damien hadn't betrayed her. He hadn't been using her for publicity. It had been Thomas and Sophia trying to drive them apart to protect their idea of what the Callaway brand should be. You can't prove any of this, Thomas said confidently. And meanwhile, your precious Elena probably believes every word Sophia said on TV. I wonder if she'll ever trust you again. Elena had heard enough. She pushed open the conference room door, all three heads turning toward her in shock. "Actually," she said, her voice steadier than she felt, "she just heard everything." Damien's face transformed with relief and then fierce pride as he crossed the room to her side. "Elena." Sophia recovered quickly, her perfect smile firmly in place. "How convenient. Did Damien call you to stage this little scene?" "I came to return this," Elena said, holding up the watchbox. "I thought what we had wasn't real." She turned to Damien. "I'm sorry I doubted you." Thomas scoffed. "This is touching, but it changes nothing. The board will never approve your new direction for the company. The Callaway brand stands for exclusivity, not accessibility." "Actually," came a new voice from the doorway, "that's not your decision to make." Victoria stepped into the room, a tablet in her hand. "I've just emailed the board the original designs Michael was working on before his death. The ones you tried to suppress, Thomas, along with recordings of your conversation with Ms. Reynolds plotting this entire scheme." Thomas's face drained of color. "You can't—" "I protected Michael and Damien's company for 15 years, Victoria said coldly. "Did you really think I wouldn't have security cameras in our conference rooms?" Sophia grabbed her purse, clearly seeing which way the wind was blowing. "This was just a job to me. I'm not involved in whatever corporate drama you all have going on." She headed for the door, pausing beside Eleanor. "For what it's worth, he never took his eyes off you in any of those photos. That part wasn't an act." As Thomas and Sophia were escorted from the building by security, Victoria turned to Damien. "I owe you an apology. And you as well, Ms. Brooks." Her professional mask slipped, revealing genuine remorse. "I was so focused on protecting the company that I didn't see Thomas was the real threat." Damien nodded his acceptance of her apology. "You've always had the company's best interests at heart, Victoria. Now we know those interests align with Michael's true vision." Left alone in the conference room, Damien turned to Elena. "I'm so sorry you got caught in the middle of all this." "I'm the one who should apologize," Elena said, holding out the watchbox. "I was ready to walk away without even talking to you." Damien took the box, but didn't open it. "I don't blame you. My world is complicated, and I dragged you into it. Without warning." "Maybe I needed to be dragged a little," Elena admitted. "I've spent so long playing it safe, keeping my life small because it was easier than risking disappointment." Damien smiled softly. "And I've been hiding behind my brother's legacy instead of carrying it forward." He opened the watchbox and took out the timepiece, its face gleaming under the office lights. "Michael always said time was the only thing we couldn't buy back once it was lost." He held the watch out to Eleanor. "I don't want to lose any more time, not with you." Eleanor took the watch, feeling its weight, the weight of trust, of second chances, of choosing to believe in something despite the risks. "Where do we go from here?" she asked. Damien's eyes held hers, full of promise and determination. "Wherever we want, together." As he slipped the watch back onto her wrist, Elena felt something shift inside her, fear giving way to possibility, doubt surrendering to trust. The inscription caught the light. "For the time you almost lost." Not lost, she thought. Found. Next morning, Eleanor woke to sunlight streaming through her window and Damien's watch on her bedside table. For a moment, she wondered if the previous night had been a dream. The confrontation with Thomas and Sophia, Victoria's unexpected support, Damien asking her to stay. But then her phone buzzed with a text from Damien. "Good morning. Last night wasn't a dream, in case you were wondering." Elena smiled. It was as if he could read her thoughts, even from across the city. "Press still outside," she texted back. "Probably, but I have an idea." "Meet me at the cafe at 10? When Eleanor arrived at Cafe Meridian, she was surprised to find the place nearly empty. Lisa waved from behind the counter, grinning knowingly. "Your boyfriend rented out the entire cafe for the morning," Lisa explained. "Said you needed a peaceful place to work. He's not my—" Eleanor began automatically, then stopped herself. "He did what?" "Paid triple our usual morning revenue." Manager nearly fainted. Lisa handed her a latte. "He's waiting in your usual spot." Damien sat at her corner table, two laptops open in front of him, looking more relaxed than she'd seen him in days. His face brightened when he saw her. "Too much?" he asked as she approached. A little, Eleanor admitted, sliding into the seat across from him. But also kind of perfect. Damien reached across the table and took her hand. I wanted us to have a normal morning, or as normal as possible given the circumstances. What are the circumstances exactly? Elena asked. I feel like I've been caught in a whirlwind since last night. Victoria called an emergency board meeting this morning, Damien explained. Thomas has been removed from his advisory position, and the board has unanimously approved the new direction for the fall collection. That's amazing, Elena said, genuinely happy for him. There's more, Damien continued, his eyes bright with excitement. They want to do a special tribute to Michael, featuring his original vision alongside my new designs. Victoria found his complete design notebooks in a storage room. Thomas must have hidden them after Michael's death. The news felt like validation, not just for Damien, but somehow for Elena too. Her presence in Damien's life hadn't disrupted his brother's legacy. It had helped restore it. What about the press, she asked. And Sophia's claims? Victoria's handling it. She's releasing a statement about Thomas's deception and making it clear that Sophia's interviews were fabricated. Damien squeezed her hand. But that brings me to my idea. The media storm isn't going to disappear overnight, and I don't want you to have to hide in your apartment. What did you have in mind? Come stay at my place. It has secure access, private parking, no more running the gauntlet of photographers. Elena hesitated. Moving in together, even temporarily, felt like a big step. Damien, I don't know. It's not... I have a guest room, he clarified, quickly. No pressure, just a safe place until things calm down. The sincerity in his eyes made it hard to refuse. But Elena knew herself, knew she needed to maintain some independence even as their relationship deepened. How about a compromise, she suggested. I'll stay at your place tonight, but tomorrow I'm going to my cousin Jen's in the suburbs for a few days. She's been begging me to visit anyway. Damien nodded, understanding in his expression. I think that's wise. Take some time away from the spotlight. He hesitated, then added, Would it be all right if I came to visit you there? I'd like to meet your family. The request touched Elena deeply. He wasn't just offering shelter, he wanted to know her world, her people. I'd like that, she said softly. They spent the morning working side by side, Damien on collection planning, Eleanor on her copy editing projects. The simplicity of it, two people sharing space, occasionally looking up to share a thought or a smile, felt like a glimpse into a possible future. Around noon, Damien's phone rang. The call was brief, his expression growing more serious as he listened. That was Victoria, he said after hanging up. The story's breaking online. Thomas is trying to spin it, claiming he was protecting the brand from Michael's misguided vision. Elena reached for her own phone, finding several new texts from friends sending links to articles. One headline read, Calloway drama, betrayal. And romance behind new collection. They're making it sound like a soap opera, she sighed. Damien's lips quirked into a half smile. Welcome to my world. Everything's a drama even when it's not. That evening, Damien's driver took them to his penthouse apartment in a sleek high-rise downtown. Eleanor had imagined something cold and minimalist, but was surprised to find warm colors, comfortable furniture and walls lined with framed sketches. Michael's, Damien explained, seeing her studying one of the drawings. He could capture the essence of a design in just a few lines. The apartment was spacious, but not extravagant. Family photos sat on shelves and cookbooks lined the kitchen counter. It felt like a home, not a showplace. Not what you expected, Damien asked, watching her take it all in. I thought it would be more pretentious, he supplied with a smile. Maybe, she admitted. More like a magazine spread, Damien shrugged. I spend enough time in perfect, curated spaces at work. Home needs to feel different. He showed her to the guest room, a comfortable space with large windows overlooking the city. Make yourself at home, I'll start dinner. You cook? Elena asked, surprised yet again. Another thing Michael insisted on. He said we needed normal skills to balance out the craziness of the fashion world. A shadow of grief crossed his face. He was always the wise one. In the kitchen, Elena watched as Damien moved with confidence, preparing a simple pasta dish. He talked about his brother as he cooked, Childhood memories, the early days of building the company, Michael's irreverent sense of humor. You know, this is the first time I've been able to talk about him without it feeling like a knife in my chest, Damien admitted as they sat down to eat. For 3 years, I've only mentioned Michael in relation to the company, never the person he was. Tell me more about him, Eleanor encouraged. Damien smiled, a genuine smile that reached his eyes. He was terrible at mornings, absolutely useless before his 3rd cup of coffee, but he'd stay up all night when inspiration struck, filling pages with sketches. He twirled pasta around his fork. He was the dreamer. I was the practical one. Who made those dreams possible? You miss him, Elena said simply. Every day, but lately it's different. I still miss him, but I also feel like I'm carrying him forward, not just preserving what was. After dinner, they moved to the living room with glasses of wine. Through the floor-to-ceiling windows, the city sparkled below them, a tapestry of lights against the night sky. It's beautiful, Elena said. It is, Damien agreed, but when she turned, she found him looking at her, not the view. The moment hung between them, heavy with possibility. Eleanor set down her wine glass and moved closer to him on the couch. Damien, she began, not quite sure what she wanted to say. He reached out, gently tucking a strand of hair behind her ear. I never expected you, he said softly. I had my life mapped out. Run the company, protect Michael's legacy, keep everyone at a safe distance. And then you found my watch. Sometimes the best things happen when we least expect them, Elena said. When he kissed her, it felt different from their previous kisses. Deeper, more certain. The watch on her wrist seemed to tick in rhythm with her heartbeat, marking a moment she knew she would remember. Later, as they said goodnight at her guest room door, Damien took her hand, running his thumb over the watch face. Sleep well, he said, and thank you. For what? For giving me back more than just a watch. The next morning, Damien had an early meeting but left breakfast prepared with a note. Giving you space doesn't mean I can't feed you first. Driver is yours for the day. Call if you need anything. Eleanor smiled at his thoughtfulness. She took her time getting ready, enjoying the peaceful luxury of Damien's apartment. Around 10, she called her cousin Jen to confirm her visit. Of course. You can stay, Jen said. The guest room is all yours, but Elena, are you okay? I've been seeing your name everywhere. It's been crazy, Elena admitted. But I'm fine, better than fine, actually. And this Damien guy? Is he as dreamy in person as he looks in photos? Elena laughed. He's different than I expected, more real. Well, I can't wait to meet him. Bring him for dinner while you're here, Elena was packing an overnight bag when the doorbell rang. Assuming it was the building's concierge, she opened the door without checking the peephole. A tall, elegant woman in her 60s stood in the hallway, impeccably dressed with silver hair swept into a chignon. Her piercing blue eyes, so familiar, widened in surprise. Oh, she said, you must be Elena. I was expecting Damien's assistant. Elena immediately recognized her from photos around the apartment. Mrs. Calloway, I'm sorry, Damien's at a meeting. I know his schedule, dear. I was hoping to leave these papers for him to review before the foundation gala. She held up a leather portfolio. I'm his mother, Elaine. Please come in, Elena offered, feeling suddenly self-conscious in her casual clothes. Elaine Calloway entered the apartment with the easy confidence of someone accustomed to commanding attention. Her gaze took in Elena's overnight bag on the couch. Are you leaving? She asked, her tone neutral but assessing. Visiting my cousin for a few days, Elena explained, just until the press situation calms down. Elaine nodded. A wise decision. Privacy is a luxury in this family. She set down her portfolio and turned to face Elena directly. I hope you don't mind my frankness, but I've been curious about the woman who's had such an impact on my son. Elena swallowed nervously. I don't think I've had that much nonsense, Elaine interrupted smoothly. Damien has changed in the past month. Anyone who knows him can see it. She moved to the window, looking out at the city. He's designing again. Really designing, not just approving other people's work. He's very talented, Elena said. Yes, he is. Though he's always believed Michael was the true creative genius. Elaine turned back to Elena. Do you know what happened after Michael died? Elena shook her head. Damien shut down. He functioned perfectly as CEO, grew the company, increased profits, expanded into new markets, but the light went out of his eyes. Elaine's voice softened. Until recently. Unsure how to respond, Elena remained silent. The watch, Elaine continued, gesturing to Elena's wrist. Michael gave it to Damien when the company almost went bankrupt during their second year. Damien hasn't let it out of his sight since Michael's death. Her eyes met Elena's. Until you. I found it on a bus, Elena explained. I turned it in to Lost and Found. A smile touched Elaine's lips. Yes, I know. Damien told me the whole story. She moved closer, studying Elena's face. You're not what I expected. I get that a lot, Elena said with a nervous laugh. It's a compliment, Elaine assured her. This family has had enough polished, perfect people who say all the right things, and mean none of them. She reached out and squeezed Elena's hand. Thank you for giving my son back to himself. The unexpected approval left Elena speechless. Now, Elaine said, her manner becoming brisk again, I should get going. Tell Damien, those papers need his signature by Friday. She headed toward the door, then paused. And Elena, don't stay away too long. This family needs more people who return what they find, not take what isn't theirs. After Elaine left, Elena sat on the couch, processing the encounter. Damien's mother was formidable, but her approval felt significant, an acknowledgement that Elena belonged in her son's life. Later that afternoon, Damien's driver took Elena to her cousin's house in the quiet suburbs. Jen welcomed her with a hug and an excited barrage of questions about Damien. Is it serious? Jen asked as they settled in her comfortable living room. The tabloids are calling you the mystery woman who stole Calloway's heart. The tabloids exaggerate everything, Elena replied, though she couldn't help smiling. But yes, I think it might be serious. And how do you feel about that? Jen asked more gently. This is a whole different world from your usual life. Elena twisted the watch on her wrist, thinking, scared, excited. Sometimes I wake up thinking, it can't possibly be real, that someone like him sees something special in someone like me. Jen squeezed her hand. Stop that. You're amazing, Elena. Always have been. You just never let yourself believe it. The days at Jen's house were peaceful. Elena worked remotely, took walks around the quiet neighborhood, and enjoyed being anonymous again. Damien called every night and they talked for hours, not just about the press situation or the company, but about books they'd read, music they loved, dreams they'd set aside. The board loves the new collection concept, he told her on the third night. We're fast-tracking it for release next month with a special exhibition honoring Michael's original vision. That's wonderful, Elena said. He would be proud. I think so too, Damien agreed. And Elena, I'd like you to be part of the launch event, not as my date, but as a collaborator. The collection wouldn't exist without you. Damien, I didn't do anything, Elena protested. I just found a watch. You found more than that, he said softly. You found the part of me I thought I'd lost with Michael. The sincerity in his voice made her heart ache. I miss you, she admitted. I miss you too, he replied. Can I come? Say you tomorrow. I could drive out after my last meeting. Elena agreed eagerly. Despite the peace of Jen's house, she found herself longing for Damien's presence, his quiet intensity, his unexpected humor, the way he listened as if her words were precious. The next evening, Elena waited nervously on Jen's porch as Damien's car pulled into the driveway. He emerged with a bouquet of wildflowers and a slightly apprehensive expression. Do I look okay? He asked as he approached. I wasn't sure if I was too formal for a family dinner. He gestured to his casual button-down and jeans. Elena laughed, some tension easing at his concern. You look perfect. Inside, Jen and her husband Mark welcomed Damien warmly, treating him not as a famous CEO but simply as Elena's boyfriend. Dinner was relaxed and full of laughter, with Jen sharing embarrassing stories from their childhood and Mark grilling Damien about his favorite sports teams. Your family is wonderful, Damien said as they took an after-dinner walk around the neighborhood. The evening was warm, fireflies beginning to flicker in the gathering dusk. They're not usually so well-behaved, Elena joked. I think they were on their best behavior for you. I met your mother, by the way, she added. She stopped by the apartment the day I left. Damien winced slightly. I'm sorry. I should have warned you about that possibility. She was actually very nice, Elena assured him. Intimidating but nice. That's a perfect description of Elaine Calloway, Damien laughed. She liked you, though. She called me after meeting you. What did she say? That you were refreshingly genuine and I should hold on to this one. He took Elena's hand. She's right, you know. They stopped walking, standing beneath a large oak tree. Around them, the suburban street was quiet, so different from the busy city they both called home. I've been thinking, Damien said, suddenly serious. About what? Happens next. For us. Elena's heart quickened. What do you mean? The press will eventually lose interest. The story about Thomas and Sophia will die down. The new collection will launch. He took both her hands in his. But I don't want what's between us to fade away with the headlines. I don't want that either, Elena said softly. I know this has all happened fast. 3 weeks ago you were a stranger on a bus finding my watch. But Elena, I feel like I've known you much longer. Like maybe I was waiting for you without realizing. The intensity in his eyes made her breath catch. Damien, I'm not proposing, he said quickly, a hint of a smile playing at his lips. Not yet anyway, but I want you to know that's where I see this going, not today, not tomorrow, but someday, when we're both ready. Relief and joy flowed through Elena. It was too soon for proposals, but the promise of a future together was exactly what she needed to hear. I'd like that, she whispered. Someday. They sealed the promise with a kiss beneath the oak tree, the watch on Elena's wrist catching the last light of day. For the time you almost lost, the engraving read, but now it felt more like a beginning than an ending. 2 weeks later, Elena stood backstage at the Calloway Design House Fall Collection launch. The exhibition space was transformed into a stunning tribute to both Michael's original vision and Damien's new direction. Photos of the brothers in their early days lined the entrance, leading to displays of Michael's original sketches, paired with Damien's new interpretations. The centerpiece was the dress Damien had shown Eleanor that first night in his studio. Now, the signature piece of the Found Time collection. A placard beside it read, "Inspired by the moments we think are lost, but find their way back to us." Are you ready? Victoria asked, approaching Elena with an uncharacteristically warm smile. In the weeks since Thomas's departure, Victoria had become an unexpected ally, helping Elena navigate the complicated world of fashion and publicity. As ready as I'll ever be, Elena replied nervously. The plan was for Damien to introduce the collection and its inspiration, with Elena joining him briefly on stage. Despite Victoria's coaching, she still felt out of place among the fashion elite gathering in the main hall. You look beautiful, Victoria assured her, adjusting the simple blue dress Elena wore, a piece from the new collection that Damien had designed with her in mind. Hayes asking for you, one of the assistants called. 2 minutes to showtime. Elena found Damien in a quiet corner, reviewing his notes one last time. When he looked up and saw her, his face transformed with a smile that still made her heart. Skip, there you are, he said, taking her hands. Nervous? Terrified, she admitted. What if I trip? Or say something stupid? Or... Damien silenced her with a gentle kiss. You'll be perfect. Just be you, that's all I need. The audience quieted as Damien took the stage, the spotlight highlighting his confident posture. 3 years ago, he began, my brother Michael and I had a vision for this company. When he died, I thought that vision died with him. I dedicated myself to preserving what we had built, afraid that any change would mean losing the last piece of him I had left. Eleanor watched from the wings, heart swelling with pride as Damien spoke with raw honesty about his grief, his brother's legacy, and the journey of rediscovery. Sometimes we have to lose something to remember what matters most, he continued. 3 weeks ago, I lost a watch, the last gift Michael gave me before his death. It was found by a woman who could have easily kept it, sold it, or simply left it where it was. Instead, she turned it in. Damien's eyes found Elena in the darkness offstage, That simple act of kindness led me back to Michael's true vision for this company. It reminded me that beautiful things aren't meant to be locked away and preserved. They're meant to be shared, to touch lives, to connect us to one another. He gestured toward the wings. Elena, would you join me? Heart pounding, Elena stepped into the spotlight. The audience was a blur of faces, cameras flashing throughout the hall, but all she saw clearly was Damien, his hand extended toward her. The Found Time collection is inspired by second chances, Damien said as Elena reached his side. By the courage to begin again. By the people who come into our lives and help us find the parts of ourselves we thought were lost forever. He turned to face Elena directly, taking both her hands in his. This collection would not exist without Elena Brooks, not because she's a designer or a fashion expert, but because she reminded me why Michael and I started this company in the first place. To create beautiful things that make people feel seen. Tears pricked at Elena's eyes as Damien continued. We call this collection Found Time, because sometimes the most precious gift is the time we think we've lost, until someone helps us find it again. The audience erupted in applause. As the lights came up for the runway show to begin, Damien squeezed Elena's hand. Was that okay? He whispered. It was perfect, she assured him. Later, as models showcased the collection to enthusiastic response, Elena stood to the side, watching Damien in his element. He moved through the crowd with easy confidence, but his eyes found hers repeatedly, as if making sure she was still there. Fashion critics and celebrities approached Elena throughout the evening, curious about the woman who had inspired such a dramatic shift in Callaway's direction. She answered their questions with the same honest simplicity that had first drawn Damien to her. How does it feel to be a muse? One famous actress asked. Elena considered the question carefully. I think we all need someone who sees us clearly, who reminds us of who we really are when we've forgotten. Damien did that for me, just as much as I might have done it for him. As the event wound down, Elena found herself face to face with Elaine Callaway, elegant as ever in a vintage Callaway design. You did well tonight, Elaine said approvingly. This industry can smell fear, but you stood your ground. Thank you, Elena replied. For everything. Elaine's eyebrow arched. Everything? For raising a son who can see value in ordinary things, Elena clarified. Who knows that what's found can be more precious than what's bought? A rare, genuine smile crossed Elaine's face. There's nothing ordinary about you, my dear. Damien sees that clearly. She glanced across the room to where her son was speaking, with a group of investors. I haven't seen him this alive since before we lost Michael. When the last guests had departed and the staff was cleaning up, Damien found Elena on the empty runway, lost in thought. Penny, for your thoughts, he asked, loosening his tie as he approached. I was just thinking about that night on the bus, Elena said. How close I came to leaving that watch between the cushions. How different everything would be. Damien stopped in front of her, taking her hands. I don't believe that would have changed anything. If it hadn't been the watch, it would have been something else. We were meant to find each other, Elena. You believe that? I do. He lifted her hand to his lips, kissing the wrist where his watch now permanently resided. Some things are lost just so they can be found again. Outside the venue, a car waited to take them home, not to Damien's penthouse or Elena's apartment, but to the new place they had found together, a brownstone halfway between her cafe and his office, a place that was neither his world nor hers, but something new they were building together. As the car pulled away from the curb, Elena leaned her head on Damien's shoulder, feeling the steady tick of the watch against her skin. The engraving had once seemed like a reminder of loss. Now it felt like a promise, for the time you almost lost, it said, and all the time still to come. 3 months after the successful launch of the Found Time collection, Elena sat in the sunlit kitchen of the brownstone she now shared with Damien, sipping coffee and scrolling through the morning news on her tablet. The media frenzy had finally died down, and stories about Callaway's mystery muse had been replaced by actual coverage of the collection's unprecedented success. The doorbell rang, and Elena smiled, knowing who it would be. She opened the door to find Lisa from the cafe, arms full of pastry boxes. Delivery for the happy couple, Lisa announced, stepping inside. I still can't believe you live here now, This place is gorgeous. It's home, Elena said simply, leading her friend to the kitchen. Thanks for bringing these. Damien's meeting with the board runs until noon, but he'll be disappointed if he misses you. Lisa set down the boxes and looked around approvingly. You've really made this place your own. It was true. The brownstone reflected both of them, Damien's eye for design balanced by Elena's preference for comfort. Bookshelves lined the living room walls, and framed sketches hung beside casual photos of their new life together. How's the job going? Lisa asked, accepting the coffee Elena offered. After the collection launch, Damien had suggested Elena consider a position with Callaway as a communications director, but she had declined. I need to make my own way, she had told him. Instead, she had accepted a senior editor position with a publishing house, where her talent for clarifying others' words was finally being recognized. I love it, Elena replied honestly. Yesterday I helped a first-time author revise a manuscript that's going to be amazing when it's published. And Damien doesn't mind that you didn't join the family business. Elena smiled. He understands. Actually, I think he respects me more for choosing my own path. After Lisa left, Elena worked from home for a few hours before preparing for the evening ahead. Tonight was the Callaway Family Foundation Gala, an annual charity event that raised millions for arts education in underserved communities. It would be Elena's first major public appearance since moving in with Damien. Victoria had helped her select a gown from the Found Time collection, a deep burgundy design with simple lines that made Elena feel both elegant and comfortable. As she finished her makeup, she heard the front door open. Eleanor? Damien called. Upstairs, she replied. Moments later, he appeared in the doorway of their bedroom, still in his business suit, his expression troubled. What's wrong? Eleanor asked immediately, knowing him well enough now to read the tension in his shoulders. Damien loosened his tie with a sigh. The board meeting. Thomas is trying to make a comeback. What? How? He's been meeting with our investors behind the scenes, suggesting the new direction is a temporary success, a novelty that won't sustain the brand long term. Damien sat on the edge of the bed, running a hand through his hair. He's proposing a return to our exclusive luxury roots before we dilute the brand beyond repair. Elena sat beside him, taking his hand. Do the board members believe him? Some might. Our sales are strong, but Thomas has relationships with these people going back decades. What does your mother say? Damien's expression softened slightly. She's firmly on our side. Said Thomas never understood what made Michael special to begin with. He squeezed Elena's hand. But it's not just about business. Thomas implied that my judgment is compromised. Because of me, Elena realized. He didn't say it directly, but the implication was clear, that I'm making business decisions based on emotions rather than strategy. Elena felt a flicker of the old insecurity. Despite their happiness together, despite the success of the collection, there were still those who saw her as an interloper, someone who didn't belong in Damien's world. Damien seemed to read her thoughts. Hey, he said gently, tilting her chin up. Thomas is wrong. Having you in my life has made me a better CEO, not a worse one. You've reminded me why we started this company, to create beautiful things that tell authentic stories. Elena nodded, pushing aside her doubts. So what happens now? Thomas is attending the gala tonight. He's still a major donor to the foundation, so Mother couldn't exclude him. He'll try to sway board members and investors to his side. Then we'll just have to be more persuasive, Elena said with determination. This is your brother's legacy we're talking about. We won't let Thomas rewrite that story. Damien's expression brightened. Have I told you today how much I love you? The words still gave Elena a thrill. The first time Damien had said them had been a month ago, on a rainy Sunday morning as they sat reading in comfortable silence. The words had seemed to surprise him as much as her, natural and unstudied, rising from a place of simple truth. I love you too, she replied. Now go get ready, we have a gala to conquer. Hours later, they arrived at the historic museum where the gala was being held. Elena's arm was linked through Damien's as they navigated the red carpet, smiling for photographers who still found the couple newsworthy. Inside, The grand hall was transformed with twinkling lights and elegant floral arrangements. A display near the entrance showcased the Foundation's work, photos of children in art programs funded by Callaway, their faces bright with creative joy. Damien, Elaine Callaway approached, resplendent in a vintage gown from one of Michael's early collections. "Elena, you look lovely." "Thank you, Elaine," Elena replied warmly. In the months since their first meeting, she and Damien's mother had developed a genuine affection for one another. Elaine had even invited Elena to lunch several times, sharing stories of Michael and Damien as children. "Thomas is here," Elaine said in a low voice, "with that awful Sophia woman as his date." Damien sighed. "Of course he is." "Don't engage unless necessary," Elaine advised. "This night is about the Foundation, not company politics." As Elaine moved away to greet other guests, Elena spotted Thomas across the room. He was speaking animatedly with a group of older men who Elena recognized as Callaway board members. Beside him stood Sophia Reynolds, looking flawlessly beautiful, in a designer gown. "Ignore them," Damien murmured. "Tonight is about celebrating Michael's vision." As the evening progressed, Elena found herself separated from Damien, who was pulled into conversations with important donors. She didn't mind. These moments gave her a chance to observe him in his element, confident and passionate when discussing the Foundation's work. "He's quite captivating, isn't he?" Elena turned to find Sophia Reynolds beside her, champagne flute in hand. "Yes, he is," Elena agreed cautiously. "No hard feelings about that whole fake girlfriend thing, I hope," Sophia said with a practiced smile. "It was just business." "Of course," Elena replied, though she hadn't forgotten how Sophia's lies had nearly destroyed her relationship with Damien. "Thomas thinks you won't last, you know," Sophia continued, her voice casual, but her eyes sharp. "He says Damien will eventually tire of playing house with someone so ordinary." Elena felt the familiar sting of insecurity, but pushed it aside. "Thomas has been wrong about a lot of things." "Has he?" Sophia raised an eyebrow. "The Found Time collection is successful now, but fashion is fickle. Next season people will want something new, something exciting. Can Damien deliver that while clinging to his brother's outdated vision?" Before Elena could respond, Victoria appeared, at her side. "Ms. Brooks, there's someone who's been asking to meet you." She gave Sophia a cold smile. "Excuse us." As Victoria led her away, Elena whispered, "Thank you." "Never let them see they've rattled you," Victoria advised, "especially when they have." Victoria introduced Elena to a well-known fashion editor who, to Elena's surprise, wanted to discuss how the story behind the Found Time collection had resonated with readers. "Authenticity is rare in this industry," the editor explained. "A CEO who publicly acknowledges his grief and how it shaped his creative vision, people connect with that vulnerability." The conversation boosted Elena's confidence, reminding her that her presence in Damien's life had value beyond what people like Thomas and Sophia could understand. Later, as dinner was being served, Elena found herself seated at a table with several Foundation supporters, including an elderly woman who introduced herself as Margaret Winters. "I knew Michael quite well," Margaret told her. "He was a frequent donor to my arts education program in East Harlem." "Damien mentions Michael's commitment to arts education often," Elena replied. Margaret smiled warmly. "Those boys were both special, but in different ways. Michael had the vision, but Damien has the heart to carry it forward." She patted Elena's hand. "And you, my dear, have helped him find that heart again." After dinner, Damien found Elena as the dancing began. "May I have this dance?" he asked with formal politeness that made her smile. As they moved across the dance floor, Elena noticed Thomas watching them, his expression calculating. "Don't look now, but Thomas is staring daggers at us." "Let him," Damien said. "I have some news that will wipe that smug look off his face." "What news?" "The preliminary sales figures for next quarter. The Found Time collection isn't just successful, it's breaking company records. And the most popular pieces are the ones directly based on Michael's original sketches." Elena's eyes widened. "That's wonderful. I'm announcing it during my speech." "Tonight," Damien said. "Along with the Foundation's new initiative, a scholarship program in Michael's name for young designers from underprivileged backgrounds. Thomas won't be pleased. Thomas never understood what made Michael special, Damien said, echoing his mother's words. He saw the business, but not the heart behind it. As the dance ended, they were approached by one of the board members who had been talking with Thomas earlier. "Damien, I've been meaning to speak with you," the older man said. "Thomas shared some concerns about the company's direction that I'd like to discuss." "Of course, Mr. Harrington," Damien replied smoothly. "But first, have you met Elena properly? She was just telling me about a remarkable young author she's working with, someone whose story might be perfect for our Foundation's literacy program." Elena followed Damien's lead, describing the young writer's powerful memoir about finding art as an escape from poverty. Mr. Harrington listened with growing interest. "That's exactly the kind of story our foundation should be supporting," he said when she finished. "Damien, we should discuss how to incorporate more literary programs into our initiatives." As Mr. Harrington moved away, Damien gave Elena a grateful smile. "You're a natural at this." "I just told the truth," she replied. "That's all I've ever done. And that's why they can't resist you," Damien said softly. "In a world of calculation and performance, authenticity is revolutionary." The evening continued with more dancing, more conversations, more moments of connection. Elena found herself speaking easily with fashion icons, business leaders, and foundation supporters, not by pretending to be someone she wasn't, but by being exactly who she was. As the gala approached its climax, Elaine Calloway took the stage to introduce Damien for his speech. "My son Michael had a vision for fashion that transcended trends," she began. "He believed beautiful design should tell a story, should connect us to something real. When we lost him, we nearly lost that vision, too." Her gaze found Damien in the crowd. "But sometimes what seems lost finds its way back to us in unexpected ways." Damien joined his mother on stage, embracing her briefly before turning to the audience. "Thank you all for supporting the Calloway Family Foundation. Tonight, we celebrate not just what we've accomplished, but what's still to come." He spoke passionately about the foundation's work, about Michael's commitment to arts education, and about the new scholarship program. Then his expression grew more serious. "Some of you may have heard rumors about the future direction of Calloway Design House. There are those who believe our recent success with the Found Time collection is a temporary deviation, that we should return to our exclusive roots." Thomas shifted uncomfortably in his seat as Damien continued. "But the numbers tell a different story." Damien revealed the record-breaking sales figures, earning murmurs of approval from the crowd. "By embracing Michael's original vision of accessible elegance, we haven't diluted our brand. We've strengthened it." His eyes found Elena in the audience. "Sometimes it takes someone from outside our world to help us see clearly what's been in front of us all along." After thunderous applause for Damien's speech, the evening began to wind down. Board members who had seemed swayed by Thomas earlier now approached Damien with congratulations and support. Even Sophia appeared less confident, standing alone by the bar as Thomas engaged in tense conversation with Elaine Calloway. "Your speech was perfect," Elena told Damien as they prepared to leave. "I think you've won them over." "We've won them." "Over?" he corrected. "You belong here, Elena. Not because you're with me, but because you remind everyone what matters most." As they collected their coats, Thomas approached them. His expression was stiff, his tone formal. "Congratulations on the sales figures, Damien. Impressive results." "Thank you, Thomas," Damien replied evenly. Thomas hesitated, then turned to Elena. "It seems I underestimated your influence, Ms. Brooks. The foundation event raised record donations tonight." It wasn't quite an apology, but it was an acknowledgement. Elena nodded graciously. "The foundation's work speaks for itself. I'm just happy to support it." Thomas gave a curt nod before walking away. Elena could tell from his posture that he hadn't given up entirely, but his power to threaten them had diminished. Outside, their driver awaited in the cool evening air. As they settled into the back seat, Damien took Elena's hand, his thumb brushing over the watch on her wrist. "What are you thinking about?" she asked, seeing his thoughtful expression. "The future," he replied. "For so long after Michael died, I couldn't think beyond preserving the past. Now I find myself excited about what comes next. And what does come next? Eleanor asked. Damien's eyes held hers, warm and certain. Whatever we decide to create together, the promise in those words carried them home, to the life they were building, a life neither of them could have imagined before a lost watch brought them together. The next morning, Eleanor woke early. Damien still slept beside her, his face peaceful. In the soft dawn light, she slipped out of bed quietly and padded downstairs to make coffee. In the kitchen, she found a small package on the counter that hadn't been there the night before. A note in Damien's handwriting rested on top. "For when you're ready." Curious, Elena opened the package to find a small velvet box. Her heart raced as she lifted the lid. Inside wasn't a ring, as she had half expected, but a delicate gold necklace with a tiny watch pendant. She turned it over to find an engraving, "For all the time still to come." Tears pricked her eyes as she heard Damien's footsteps on the stairs. He appeared in the doorway, still in his pajamas, watching her reaction. "It's beautiful," she whispered. "I thought about a ring," he admitted, moving closer. "But we agreed to take our time. This felt right. A promise for the future, whenever we're both ready." Elena stepped into his embrace, feeling the steady rhythm of his heartbeat against her cheek. "I love you," she said simply. "I love you too," he replied, his voice warm with certainty. "Finding you was the beginning of everything." As they stood together in the morning light, Eleanor thought about the journey that had brought them here. From a night bus to a shared home, from strangers to partners. The watch on her wrist kept steady time, no longer a reminder of what was lost, but a promise of all that had been found. 6 months later, on a crisp autumn day, Elena stood in the garden behind their brownstone, surrounded by flowers and twinkling lights. Only their closest friends and family were present: Lisa and the cafe staff, Jen and her husband, Elena's cousins, and Damien's mother Elaine, who had become like family to Elena. Victoria had arranged everything with her usual efficiency, transforming the small garden into an intimate haven. In the center stood a simple arch twined with white roses and greenery. Beneath it waited Damien, his eyes never leaving Elena as she walked toward him in a simple white dress, his design, of course, inspired by the blue dress she'd worn on their first dinner together. The ceremony was brief but heartfelt. They exchanged vows they had written themselves, promises not of perfection but of partnership, not of flawless futures, but of facing life's challenges together. "I never expected you," Damien said, his voice steady despite the emotion in his eyes. "You were the missing piece I didn't know I needed. The one who helped me find my way back to myself, to Michael's memory, to the future we can build together." Eleanor's voice trembled slightly as she responded. "You saw me when I was used to being invisible. You showed me that love isn't about grand gestures or perfect moments, but about returning what's lost, cherishing what's found, and creating something new together." When they exchanged rings, Damien gently removed the watch from Elena's wrist and replaced it with a delicate gold band. But the watch wasn't set aside. It was placed in a small display case that would sit on their mantel, a reminder of where their story began. "The watch has served its purpose," Damien whispered, as he slid the ring onto her finger. "It brought us together. Now we measure time differently, not by what we've lost, but by what we've found." As they sealed their vows with a kiss, applause erupted from their small gathering of loved ones. Eleanor felt a sense of rightness, of completion. The journey that had begun with a simple act of honesty, turning in a lost watch, had led her to a life richer than she could have imagined. At the reception held in their living room and spilling into the garden, Elaine Calloway approached the newlyweds with tears in her eyes. "Michael would have adored you," she told Eleanor, clasping her hands. "Not just because you make Damien happy, but because you understand what they were trying to create together. Beauty with meaning, elegance with heart." Damien put his arm around Elena's waist. "I think he sent her to me in a way. That watch, finding its way to her bus of all places, too perfect to be coincidence." Elaine smiled. "You know what Michael always said about design? The best creations look like fate but require perfect timing," Damien finished, the familiar quote bringing a bittersweet smile to his face. Later, as evening fell and their guests danced under string lights in the garden, Damien pulled Elena aside to a quiet corner. "Happy?" he asked, his eyes searching hers. "More than I knew was possible," she replied honestly. "I have something for you," he said, pulling a small envelope from his pocket. "A wedding gift." Inside was a deed. The cafe where they had first met had come up for sale, and Damien had purchased it. "It's yours," he explained. "To do whatever you want with. Open a bookstore, create a writing space, keep it as a cafe, whatever makes you happy." Eleanor stared at the document in amazement. "Damien, this is too much." "It's not enough," he said softly. "You gave me back my brother's vision, my own creativity, a future worth looking forward to. A building seems small in comparison." Eleanor touched his face gently. "You know what I'm going to do with it, don't you?" Damien smiled. "I have some ideas." 3. Months later, the cafe reopened as Found Time, part coffee shop, part bookstore, part community space where local writers could work and share their stories. Lisa managed the coffee side, while Elena ran evening writing workshops for neighborhood kids, teaching them that their words mattered, their stories deserved to be told. The Calloway Family Foundation provided scholarships for children who couldn't afford the nominal fees, and occasionally Damien himself would stop by to sketch while listening to young voices reading their work aloud. On the wall behind the counter hung a framed bus ticket and a small replica of the watch that had started it all. Beside it, a simple plaque read, "For the time you almost lost and all the time still to come." Elena stood in the doorway of the busy cafe one evening, watching as Damien helped a young girl revise a story she had written. His head was bent, close to hers, his attention fully focused on her words, showing the same care he gave to million-dollar designs. In that moment, Eleanor felt the full circle of their journey, from a woman who found a lost watch to a woman who had found herself, her purpose, and a love that would measure all the time still to come. Outside, snow began to fall gently, coating the city in a blanket of white. But inside was warmth, connection, and the steady ticking of time, not lost, but found and treasured with each passing moment. The end.